Yeah. I mean, Russ Fisher is obviously one of those people who occasionally just wins their fantasy leagues and doesn't know what he's talking about, right, guys? Oh, hi, Russ. How you doing?
Hey, Russ. I'm sure you still want to trade for Sanders and DK. You can send me some more offers. He's sent me like 100 offers at least, and I've declined all of them.
That's what he does. That's why he's a trader.
For both of those.
Yeah. Is your beard colored, Matt? It looks like it.
Okay.
There you go.
I have
very red for some reason.
I have these obnoxious. I'm going to turn my computer on. I have these obnoxious red curtains that put a red glow into my room from leftover from the ex-wife, and I haven't replaced them yet. So they make everything kind of red, unfortunately.
Yeah, your mustache looked red for some reason. I was like, whatever.
I think I probably have a little bit of red in there, but no, definitely haven't colored it.
I'm just surprised you were able to look away from his baby blues long enough to actually notice his beard color.
Whatever.
All right. We'll count down in just a minute here. So I'm just going to say 3, 2, 1. We'll get started with introductions and see how this goes. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Zooperflex. We know that it's been a while, but hopefully you checked out our episode of the Goat District, which was somewhat of a joint episode. It had a very similar vibe to what we try to accomplish on this podcast. And once again, I am joined by my co-host, Matt. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be back on the mic with you. It's been a little while. Glad you made it through was it a hurricane still when it got to you, or was it still a tropical storm? I don't know, but I'm glad you made it through that.
It was, I don't know if it counted as a hurricane, but I can tell you that like multiple large trees crashed around here and blocked off roads and like fell through people's houses. So I'm definitely glad to still be around.
Yeah.
It was, and a lot of people were without power for a while. So I'm glad to have power. Just thankful in general, to be alive and have electricity. So I guess thankful to not live in like the early 1800s. And I'm also thankful to have our guest tonight. I've never been on a podcast with him before, but I have talked to him pretty extensively over Twitter. And he is a delight to talk to for those who don't know. But our guest tonight is the Peebles champ, Dwight Peebles. And Dwight is the co-host of the Debbie Manual and a fellow writer at Dynasty League Football. Dwight, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me, man. This is kind of a little different for me. I usually talk Debbie, IDP, a little bit of everything, but I thought I'd hop on and talk some quarterbacks. So they're kind of the backbone of fantasy leagues, even though I hate admitting that as a defensive guy. But you got to have quarterback, and you got to, especially these days with about 75% of the leagues, it seems like now are Superflex. So they're definitely important. So happy to be on, guys.
The trend is certainly going that way. And, maybe after this, I actually think the next trend that we'll pick up is going to be Debbie. I've slowly seen it start to increase. And I think, Superflex used to be on the fringes and is now mainstream. I can see Debbie going that way. Although maybe with what's going on with college football right now, it might be delayed a little bit, and we'll probably get into that a little bit later. But as Dwight said, we are going to talk about quarterbacks, and we are doing something a little bit different on tonight's show. So Matt rightly pointed out that it felt like this offseason we have already pretty much have talked about every quarterback there is to talk about. So instead of rehashing that, we thought it might be interesting to do a dynasty-focused redraft from the 2016 to this past year's class. And we're just going to do it round robin. People can give their quick hitter on why they think that person belongs in that particular spot. And since Dwight is the guest on our podcast here, I'm going to give him the honor of selecting Patrick Mahomes, unless, of course, he goes with Lamar Jackson, in which case I will just cut him off there because I think they're close. I think it is definitively Mahomes. And that's just my quick piece. But go ahead, Dwight. Tell people why you're selecting Mahomes.
I'm actually going to go Mitch Trubisky. No, I'm just kidding. Ooh. All right, guys. Yeah, it is Mahomes. I mean, come on. The Bears were right. You're right. It is Mahomes. I feel like he's safer. You've got to think that eventually Lamar's running stats will tail off at some point. You think he can't run like this forever. And I feel like Mahomes is he's in a great situation, great organization in Kansas City that's going to continue to build around him. You love the kid. He keeps his nose clean, which, not these days seems like a big deal. You just love everything about him. He's going to be around 10, 15 years, and he's going to be a quarterback one for probably at least 13 or 14 of those years. So I think you get Mahomes on your team and you just kick back and relax. So it's easily Mahomes. I don't even think it's really that close for between 1 and 2, but that's my opinion. So.
Matt, do you want to make a case for number 2?
Make it closer.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is. I mean, it's. I think probably for everybody, it's Lamar Jackson, right? I think Dwight's right in terms of the can't run forever thing, and he probably certainly has a shorter shelf life than Patrick Mahomes. But we've seen the upside when that. Really, what you're looking for in these Konami code quarterbacks, as Rich Rebar coined so long ago, is that rushing provides not only the floor but the ceiling, and then when the passing comes along with it, that's when magic happens, and that's what happened for Lamar Jackson in 2019. Ridiculous 9% touchdown rate. That's obviously going to come down. The average decrease for somebody that's thrown above 8% touchdown rate, I believe, is a drop of 3%. So if he drops down to 6%, that's still a really good passing season for somebody that's going to put up the amount of rushing points for us. So I don't know that it's necessarily a different tier. I think I probably have them 1A, 1B. But Mahomes definitely feels a little bit more comfortable, at least for the long term. But being realistic, both of these guys are going to be fantasy assets for, in Lamar Jackson's case, maybe a little bit less, 5 to 10 years. Mahomes, maybe he plays 15, who knows? But I don't think there's that much of a drop off from Mahomes to Lamar Jackson in the short term.
Yeah, there's no real disagreement from me there. And I think the third pick in this redraft is actually one of the harder ones. And I consistently go back and forth on this between my next 2 guys. So those
you get
guys,
2 picks, right? We're snaking, right? So you get both of them.
Yeah, that's true. However, I am going to definitively say that I'm leaning now more towards one than the other. I've gone back and forth for months on this, but the 2 guys I'm talking about are Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson, and that's the order that I would probably put them in. The thing that's really hard to argue against is that Kyler Murray came out as a rookie and was really productive from a fantasy perspective, even if the Cardinals weren't great. And then they went out and added DeAndre Hopkins. And that team is just building around Murray and surrounding him with weapons and seemingly doing all the right things so that he can have sustained fantasy success. Meanwhile, as much as I love Deshaun Watson, the Texans are doing the exact opposite. They're getting rid of all of his weapons. They're not protecting him at all. They have Bill O'B in the charge, and he just can't seem to do anything right. What really actually scares me about Deshaun Watson, even though I would have him next and I'm going to select him next, and you guys can maybe add some color here too, is I'm almost worried that he goes the Andrew Luck route where the lack of protection gets him hurt to the point where he just goes, I'm not playing anymore. I don't know how huge of a risk I think that is in my head, but the fact that they won't protect him at all really does scare me.
That's a very, very valid concern. And I think if you go from a talent standpoint, I would much Watson, but I do not like what the organization has done around him. They make a valid point there. I like Kyler. I like that, Kingsbury's building an offense that will tailor to his strengths. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, but he's got that mobility and the ability to run that quick pace offense that Kingsbury is putting in there. They've drafted 6 wide receivers in the last 2 years. So, and they added Hopkins, and they're really trying to build something there. And I really like that. And when you're dealing with this type, you've got to factor in the organization, because you're right. I could see Watson going the Luck route, or after his contract's up, he says, that's it, I'm done, and if he stayed with the Texans past his first contract, I would be pretty shocked actually. So yeah, I can't argue that. I like Watson better, but I think I would take Murray before him because of the situation. So I like that.
But it's Bill O'Brien. I mean,
yeah,
that's all you really need to say. As long as Bill O'Brien is the GM, then I don't know how you take what Watson has done and then take away his number one weapon for a song, basically, and then give him David Johnson. I kind of interested in David Johnson this year as a dark horse candidate for some points, and certainly from the receiving standpoint. But I mean, you can't do that to your quarterback. It's not fair, man.
The only thing that I will add here before we let Matt make his next pick is I was hesitant to hype up Murray this much only because if Murray is this good and Daniel Jones is not about equally good, I'm going to end up wearing jorts thanks to a bet I made.
You're wearing jorts, dude. You're definitely wearing jorts.
Well, we'll see about that. But if I have to wear the jorts, I will make sure that I trim down when I grow my beard back out to just a mustache so that I can go full Gardner Minshew. But Matt, who is your next pick after those two?
Yeah, I would have actually taken Dak Prescott ahead of Deshaun Watson. I think they're in the same tier, of course. So we're nitpicking here, but Dak Prescott, the only concern with him, honestly, is are they going to give him a long-term contract? And you have to think that they're going to get there eventually. But thanks, Olive. Yeah. So the only thing you're missing there is that long-term. Oh my gosh.
Olive's just really mad that they haven't given him the contract yet.
She is. I didn't know she was a Cowboys fan, but apparently she is. No, I mean, the offense is stacked around him. Zeke is wrapped up long term. There are some outs, I guess, there, and same with Amari Cooper. And now, of course, they've added CeeDee Lamb there. So just the full complement of weapons. I don't see how this is not maybe the best set of three wide receivers in the league to go along with that offensive line. Obviously not as good as last year and maybe a year or two before that, but still very good. So everything's in line for Dak. I mean, would be really surprised if they finished as the a top 3 offense in 2020? I don't think so. So Dak for me is number 4, but still the same tier with Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson.
Dwight, over to you. And also, just to clarify, if anyone wants to add any commentary to anyone else's pick, feel free. I didn't really specify that before we got started, but if you'd like to, go for it. Just jump in.
Right. All right. You mentioned the tiers, and here's where the tier drop off is big time for me.
Huge.
Yeah, those top 5 are all, want to say, fairly locked in. And these guys, I mean, you could argue from 6 to 12. Like all of them have very questionable situations, very, just not as much certainty. Geez, this is really tough. I don't like this. And I got 2 in a row too, right? Shoot, you guys suck. I will take, all right, just for the upside, I will take Joe Burrow here. He is with my Cincinnati Bengals, which scares me a little bit because they have not been kind to quarterbacks since about Boomer Esiason. So it's been a long time coming. I do like what they do have some good weapons there to surround him with. The team has addressed the offensive line. The kid's got the magic arm. He's got the ability to win. He's got all the intangibles, but it's just a question of whether the organization can continue to build around him and continue to get him what he needs. He's in a really good situation there. I like it. I'll take him there. I don't know if you guys' thoughts on that. I know you guys would probably not take him there. I think it's what Bobby. Yeah,
that's where I had Burrow too. In our show sheet, which you guys saw, I pasted him right below Dak. So it's pretty much gone the order that I thought it would, and it's for similar reasons to you. I don't love the Bengals organization, but I do think he's a better quarterback than Dalton. I think they still have some good weapons there. I like the weapons that they drafted for him as well. And they're trying something new. And the other thing is, I talked to John Bosch too much, and we mention him a lot on this podcast. But I think about a lot of players, not even necessarily from production perspective, but from value perspectives. So of the guys that we're talking about next, if Burrow has at least decently good year as a rookie with the hype he has around him from college, he'll probably go way up in terms of ADP and dynasty value. And so he definitely would be, of the guys that were in these draft classes, my QB 6.
Right. Then at 7, I'll go off your list here. I'm going to take Carson Wentz. I love his talent. I don't like the fact that the organization is not giving him the weapons he needs. Rager was a nice addition. I wish he would stay healthy, but I really like him when he's on the field. He's makes a lot of good decisions with the ball. I like that he takes care of the ball. Looking at his numbers, he's got 97 touchdowns, only 35 interceptions in his career. And that's with the suspect line, a lot of that just running like crazy, running his head off. I really wish they would get him a little bit more as far as offensive weapons. And like I said, Rager's is a nice addition. Jeffrey, if he could ever stay healthy. But then you go beyond that, and their tight ends, Ertz and Goddard. And it seems like there for a couple of years, they were really building something good around him, and they were in the Super Bowl. And then ever since then, I feel like they haven't really done a whole lot. Miles, great addition last year, but a lot of people he's one of those polarizing guys. Either just absolutely love him or you just absolutely don't. And I'm sorry if Etan is out there listening, he is not worth as much as Jameis Winston. I tried to trade those two last year, and he said Winston was worth more than Wentz. So Etan, if you're listening, sorry, he's not. So that's my last
that
time.
was I don't know if that counts as an extinction of the week, but that was just like an early burn or shade thrown in Etan's way.
He probably doesn't even remember it, man. It was a playoff run thing, and I can't remember which one I even wanted. I don't know, whatever. It got it in the conversation. He said that Winston was worth more than Wentz, and I'm like, get out of here.
Wow. Yeah, all right, Matt, you're up.
Yeah, I like the Wentz pick. I actually had him above Burrow still. I think they've tried to help him out. They've brought in these speed receivers, and they just keep getting hurt over and over. Whether it's Deshaun Jackson or I can't remember. I don't know why, but I can't remember who was the guy they brought that used to be for the Steelers. Another speed receiver. God, what was his name? That they thought that was going to be Antonio Brown, or they gave Antonio Brown the contract instead of him. Why am I blanking on this? Anyway, you guys know who I'm talking about, right? Sure. Either of you know who I'm talking about? No, you guys don't know either. Damn, this is going to kill me. We're going to come back to this. I'm going to figure this out. But anyway, I think they've tried to help out Carson Wentz, and I think he's an excellent talent. He had his MVP season, and like you said, they've tried to help him out, but it just hasn't really worked out. So great pick there. I'm actually going to take another quarterback who I have above Burrow, and that is Tua Tagovailoa. I've been Team Tua since he came on as a freshman and won a national title, and I think that once the hip injury happened and Joe Burrow's amazing season with Brady, like once that happened, we kind of forgot about Tua, and here we have Tua sitting here ready to play. I think he's completely healthy. That's what all of the reports have said. Of course, maybe his, the other side of the candle, I guess, is not going to be as long in terms of the length of his career. That could certainly come back and haunt him at some point, but I think he's ready to go. And at some point, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to turn into Fitzpumpkin in 2020, and as long as we continue to have a season, and we're going to see Tua, and I think he's going to make people sad that especially the Bengals, sad that they took Burrow over him in the long run. So Tua is an easy pick for me here at the whatever we're at 304, whatever it is, 302. I don't know.
I'm just going by numbers as the 8th pick in our redraft.
I left you your guy, Bobby.
Yeah, you did, but I will also say that Tua was my number one over Burrow for a while too. I got into a debate with Brian Harr about it. And believe it or not, guys, I actually changed my mind. I know that's not allowed on Twitter, but getting into like an hour-long or so debate with Brian a few months ago, he did manage to convince me that Burrow was probably the slightly, if not better choice, at least safer choice. And he also at least has a decent amount of upside, but I'd still love Tua. And the next guy I'm about to talk to you about is a Giant. And why I bring that up is because even though they had their guy, in my opinion, it still made me sad that I spent all this time watching Tua in college, hoping that one day he would be drafted by the New York Giants, and they were in a position to do so and didn't. I didn't think they needed to do it, but it still just hurt slightly to see them be in pick position to draft him and not do it. And so with that spoiler, I'm going to draft Daniel Jones. I'm sure this is shocking to everybody out there because they know how much I hate. No, I have made it very clear that I am a big Jones believer. Part of that could be that he just rescued my fandom from a washed up Eli Manning, as much as I love Eli Manning. Part of that, I think, is just he had great fantasy success as a rookie. And he actually, when he became a starter, not many people know this, but I know it because I wrote an article about it. He outscored Kyler Murray on a fantasy points per game basis once Daniel Jones actually took over as a starter. So that was interesting to look at. I think you can pretty safely say for most people, there's a tier break after that Burrow, a Tua tier, but Jones is very close to that tier for me, and I'm very happy to select him there. And also, hopefully he will be within a point per game or better of Kyler Murray, because I really do not want to wear jorts at the end of this season.
Hey Bobby, what do you think about him apparently bulking up this offseason in hopes that he's not going to have 18 fumbles this year? Do you think his hands are just like massive, like maybe he's got like Popeye forearms now and just these massive like meaty fingers that are ready to grip that ball, and he's not going to drop the ball 15 plus times this year?
You know, there were lots of players that have had fumble issues as rookies. I'm trying to recall off the top of my head, but I know like
not 18.
I know at least there have been like a few like quote unquote Hall of Fame quarterbacks that struggled with it. You know, I don't believe in the like best shape of their lives, whatever. But you know, looking at those pictures, you can tell he's put on some muscle. I can't say that I'm well versed enough in football to know if those muscles actually make any kind of impact on the quarterback position or not. But it looks good, so hopefully it actually adds some production and makes him harder to take down. But ultimately, I think it'll help him. Like maybe if he doesn't have a girlfriend, maybe it'll help him get a girlfriend.
If you had to pick one of these guys to be your best friend, would it be Daniel Jones or Gardner Minshew?
Oh, easily Gardner Minshew.
Oh, Gardner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez.
Daniel Jones has like, don't get me wrong, Jones seems like a perfectly nice guy, but he has like what he's emulated from Eli Manning is having that like very boring vanilla personality.
Exactly.
Whereas like Minshew is probably too wild for me, but I would at least have a memorable night from it.
At least sit back and watch what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'd have a story to tell from hanging out with Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
If I hung out with Daniel Jones, it'd probably be like, we went and got bagels.
Maybe you had a glass of wine and a baked potato or something.
So
and Gardner would introduce you to Tiger King. So yeah, it'd be all right. So
I do realize I have back-to-back picks here, and I'm not going with Gardner Minshew as much as I'm a big Gardner Minshew fan. I'm not an unrealistic Gardner Minshew fan, and there are still quarterbacks that I would take ahead of him. I am going to go with a guy that probably would also hang out with Tiger King, and at least has taken a picture of himself hanging out with a tiger, and that's Baker Mayfield. I think that we as a community have been pretty quick to jump off the Mayfield train. I do think he'll probably have a bounce back season. I think Freddie Kitchens has a lot to do with what happened to Mayfield last season. And I also think that he's had a full offseason, even though I recognize it's a totally weird offseason to prepare to play with Odell Beckham. And I know Jarvis Landry's been a little hurt, but I say this every offseason, guys, and maybe like I'm a secret Browns fan that just needs like Browns fan anonymous or something. Every offseason, I'm like, oh, I really like the moves the Browns are making. And then every season, they just disappoint me from a fantasy perspective. But I really feel like this year, at least Baker will put it together. I don't know that their team will put it together, but I think that he will elevate himself back into that, oh, yeah, he's a young quarterback in this game to get excited about.
Well, we had such lofty expectations from him. Like, I don't think anybody could have living up to the hype that we put on the 2019 Browns. You know, when they traded for Odell Beckham, I myself included, we moved Baker way up the list, top 3, top 4 quarterback in Dynasty, and it was too much pressure for everybody, right? So there's no way, even if they had a winning season, we probably still would have been disappointed based on our expectations. Odell Beckham had that, I think it was a hernia injury, right? And basically all season long that kind of wrecked him. So I agree with you. I think Baker was the right pick here.
Question for you guys, based on what Matt just said. I never really made this connection until just now, but are we making that same mistake with Kyler Murray? Because he gets DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, he had a good rookie season, but he gets DeAndre Hopkins and we elevate him to like 3 or 4, I think, in most people's dynasty rankings. And if he disappoints, do you think that he's going to be in the same value range as Baker this time next year, or do you think that Kyler has enough hype to sustain it?
Yeah, I don't think it's exactly the same. I mean, they added Hopkins, but other than that, it's been a pretty stable offseason. Not a lot has changed, whereas Cleveland brought a ton of new stuff. I mean, other than OBJ, there was a lot of other turmoil. They were making moves like crazy. I felt like, and then they got all this hype, and I don't feel like Arizona's getting that hype. And nobody's calling for them to be a dark horse for the Super Bowl. Everybody knows there's still some work to do there. It doesn't feel like the same to me. Like we're hyping Kyler up some, yes, and he could snap and go down like Mayfield has, but the situation feels so much different. It doesn't feel as forced. Whereas Mayfield, I mean, it just felt like they were, putting TNT in a freaking barrel and just seeing what happened. Like you all off season, everybody was doing that, and then you kind of always had that feeling in the back of your head, like it's gonna blow up, and you just kind of knew it was going to. It's like watching a train wreck almost, And I don't feel like it's that way with Murray. I think they're being more careful, more cautious to not, totally destroy what they built in year one. So he could regress quite a bit and he could drop, but I don't feel like the situation's anywhere near the same. So.
And I think you have that.
Go ahead. All I was going to say is I did recognize one difference, and maybe Matt was about to bring this up, and I'm stealing his thunder. But a major difference is that Kyler, unlike Baker did have all those touchdowns, but from a fantasy perspective, he was still like, if I recall, middling teens in terms of like his PPG finish among quarterbacks in his rookie season, whereas Kyler legitimately finished in the top 10 as a rookie.
No, I was just going to say, I think you have the rushing floor and upside with Kyler too. 93 rushes last year, and you have to think that probably gets even higher in the 100+ range this season. So, he's got a little bit of a cushion there that Baker doesn't necessarily have, I think. So, it's possible, but I don't know. I for some reason, I have more faith in Kyler than Baker. I don't know. Maybe that's unfounded though.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And you're up with your next pick.
Yeah, it's getting kind of gross. I'm gonna just go based on my rankings here. I have him at quarterback 11, and that's Josh Allen. I'm not a giant fan of his, but you can't ignore the rushing upside that he has. I do have some worry in the back of my head that he's, the coaching staff might get sick of the 63%, or was it 56% career passer, I think is what it is. As a coach, you probably aren't super happy with that. And then they drafted a super safe quarterback, basically the exact opposite of Josh Allen this year, and Jake Fromm, kind of more of an extension of the coach quarterback. So you have to think that if he continues down this road of mid 50s or maybe even high 50s passing percentage, completion percentage, that at some point they're going to want to make a move. Maybe he just doesn't get a second contract or whatever it is. But we don't really care about that for fantasy. What we care is fantasy points, right? And he's definitely going to provide that. He was basically their goal line back last offseason. Frank Gore isn't there anymore to not get into the end zone, so maybe Zach Moss, or they give Devin Singletary more of a chance there, and he loses a little bit off the top. And if that happens, then I think he definitely will drop down the dynasty ranks a little bit. But right now, for fantasy purposes, he's one of those rushing quarterbacks, the tail end of that kind of rushing quarterback section, I guess you could say. So he's kind of the last guy in that range that can give you that extra boost on the ground. So here, I think he's still just a little bit ahead of the next guy on the list.
Dwight, you're up with that next guy, unless you have anything you want to add about Allen.
just waiting for Matt to beat up his computer or whatever he's doing there.
The dog keeps dropping the toys.
All right. Really mad about that take with Allen. She's a Bills fan too. Somehow she's both a Bills and a Cowboys fan.
she's
breaking tables right now.
All right. Yeah, here this is a lot of I'm going to take Jared Goff just because he's up numbers, and if I need a 3 or 4, Jared Goff. I mean, I feel like he's always going to put up numbers in that offense. He's not spectacular. Last year was kind of scary, him having 16 interceptions, where it seems like the last couple of years he's gotten worse, which is kind of odd, to start throwing more interceptions. So it's a little alarming. He's still only 25. He's going to be in that offense for a long time. He's always going to have decent numbers. He's not a world beater. I'm not saying he's great or anything, but I would take him here just as kind of like my safe, fourth quarterback. And for him to take the ups, he's a guy I've not had a lot of hope for. Like going into the process last year, I was pretty low on him. But I have to admit, I kind of liked what I saw last year. I like the swag. I like seeing him, bopping on the sidelines to, the songs. And I like seeing that. I like seeing that infectious attitude. I really want that in my quarterback. That's something I really love. That's why I love Brett Favre so much. I love that, want to play, that fire. I love it. He had pretty decent numbers last year. And then they only went and added, Jerry Jeudy and, they're setting this kid up for amazing things. Melvin Gordon added to the offense. This offense has more weapons than like any team should be willing to give a rookie, like a second-year quarterback. So we are setting him up to do great things. Still not 100% sold on him, but at this point, why not? it's worth a shot. He's got a pretty good arm. He looked pretty good at Missouri. Why am I drawing a blank on his college right now? I think it's Missouri. Yeah, Missouri. I don't know why I did that. I'm a Debbie guy. Anyways, yeah, he looked pretty good at Missouri. His senior year was pretty rough, so I was kind of down on him going into the process. I thought the Broncos took him at a pretty good spot the second round, and I really liked what we saw last year. And, the upside's there. The talent around him's there, so I'll take him here. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think everybody knows what I think about that at this point in time. Well, just to reiterate, for those who have not listened or followed me on Twitter, I am not a Drew Lock fan whatsoever. I think that he could be a good quarterback for like game manager, maybe in the NFL, but for fantasy, I want no part of him. In fact, if you look at my personal ranks that I put on the show sheet, I had 3 of the other guys over Lock and him towards the bottom. He was only over, and this might be a spoiler. I don't. You're going to go. Yeah, he's over Jordan Love. I imagine Love is going to be the last pick in this, unless one of you guys just really thinks Love should go higher.
Packers boy.
Yeah, maybe Matt does, but I think Matt's just still pissed about the pick and is probably even mad that I put Love on the show sheet at all. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand why some people are excited about Love or Lock. It's just hard for me to get behind when. And, people told me, oh, he was injured. Oh, they were putting on training wheels. Oh, blah, blah, blah. For fantasy perspective, he was really, really bad as a rookie. And yeah, it was a small sample, but it just didn't really see anything there that encouraged me. And I also, from my limited college knowledge, I was not a fan of him at Missouri. So it's just hard for me to sell myself on it. But, when you're talking about the guy that's number 13 of our draft class here, it's not like I'm like, oh man, Dwight, I'm ready to fight you. It's just I wouldn't have done that. That's all.
Hey Bobby, can you mute your headphones for a second? I don't want you to hear this. Hey Matt, Drew Lock is better than Danielle Jones. No, okay, don't let Bobby hear that. Okay, all right, you can open him back up, Bobby. All right.
Well, now we're gonna fight. Just take you out back. We're going to
I'm not sure I can even go there with you, to be honest with you. I am not a Daniel Jones fan, but I mean, we've talked on this podcast a lot about him, but my take is if he fails, there should be zero chance he fails. But for some reason, I still think he might fail.
There you go.
Mike Wallace, by the way, is the receiver that they tried to sign in Philadelphia and then just got hurt. Anyway.
All right.
Told you I'd find him. You got another pick, or did you make both of them? Did I miss? Oh, you took Goff. I like that pick too. I think Goff is definitely in store for a bounce back kind of season. We saw his this is totally off the top of my head, but I think his touchdown rate his first 2 seasons were near 6%, and last season it went down to 3.5%. So he also led the league. I learned this on the new Warren Sharp podcast with Chad Scott and Rich Rebar, that he I think he's seven receptions, 7 passes from Goff were stopped at the 1 yard line. So if he had, let's say, 5 more touchdowns last season, we maybe be talking a little bit different about Goff right now. But right now he's down there, so I think he's definitely due for a bounce back. All right,
really quick. Sorry, you reminded me. I put out a tweet recently because in a chat that I'm in, and this is shout out to the Trade Addicts Pod. I'm in their Patreon chat, the Cool Kids Club, as it's called, because if you're not in it, you're not one of the cool kids. and someone brought up, I think it was J Mike, brought up Matthew Stafford versus Jared Goff, and everyone was like, "Oh, Matthew Stafford, this is so easy, Matthew Stafford." And I wanted to like flip a table over, and it was just an intuition. But then I went on Pro Football Reference, which for those of you who don't use it, I don't imagine there's many of you, is pretty much the greatest football stats site out there. And I compared them over the last few seasons since Goff entered the league on a per game basis. And they had incredibly similar numbers. And Goff is also 7 years younger. And that included his terrible Jeff Fisher season. So I don't know how in Dynasty the answer is not like definitively Jared Goff. That's just my slight rant on Jared Goff for this podcast.
And he just feels gross when you take him. I mean, like, honestly, it's kind of just one of those things. Like you said, there's a lot of similarity. You know, Goff throws for a ton of yards, and that's what Stafford's really good at. And there for a while, Stafford was throwing 15 interceptions a year too. He seems to have calmed down a little bit as he's gotten a little older, and we assume that Goff will go back to throwing less interceptions. 16 last year was kind of rough. You know, and if you're in a scoring format like, you know, the Scott Fish Bowl where they really penalize that, you know, he pretty much almost killed weeks for you by throwing that many interceptions or 18 fumbles. You know, that kind of stuff kills weeks too. So anyways.
Yeah, and we've just seen his volume, not necessarily that volume from quarterbacks translate to fantasy points, but we've seen his volume just skyrocket since, you know, he took over. And well, in his rookie season, I'm not going to really count because he only started 7 games, but in 2017, 477 pass attempts up to 561. And then last season, you know, over 600. So I think we're going to see that same range. Whereas in Detroit, you've got Patricia and whatever. I have my issues with Patricia, but he doesn't want to throw the ball really a lot. Is the short version of that story. So yeah, I mean, I think they're probably close, but I was just looking at my rankings. I have Goff 13 and Stafford 15, so splitting hairs at this point. But I think if you're on the clock and you have the choice between the two, then you probably got to go Goff, even if not just because of the age discount.
Yep, that was pretty much my point as well.
All right, I guess I'm back on the clock, and at this point, I think I'm gonna swing for unknown upside, I guess. So I'm gonna take another rookie, Justin Herbert. I think he probably should have come out last season, and maybe would have. I guess he did still get taken pretty high with a 6 overall by the Chargers, so maybe not. But I just felt like after his junior season that he was ready to kind of take that next step, and he did come back in 2019 and do, you know, just a little bit better, I guess. so maybe ignore all the things I just said about that. But I don't know. He's the one negative I have with him, and maybe this is a product of coming out of Oregon, because Marcus Mariota had the same thing. He's just got this. He's kind of a robot out there. Like he sees it, he throws it. He's very mechanical. And, you know, I'm not sure that necessarily translates as well to the NFL when you need maybe a little bit more of an improvisational style when the pressure is coming. So that's really where I see issues with Justin Herbert, is when the pressure comes, what's he going to do with it? And if he can beat that, then I think he has all of the athletic and ability in the world. So that's going to be the true test for him. I haven't watched Hard Knocks yet. But I'm looking forward to it, seeing that dynamic between him and Tyrod Taylor. I do think that of the 3 rookie quarterbacks, he probably has the least amount of a chance to start in year one. Obviously, Burrow is going to start from day one. But even Tua, I think, probably has a little bit better chance as long as the Chargers are winning games. So you're going to have to wait a little bit on him. But at this point, when we have we have Darnold and Minshew and Jordan Love, Mitchell Trubisky left, I think I'm willing to take the upside here of unknown upside of Justin Herbert.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And also, this is a bit of an aside, but it is interesting. Supposedly, there are a bunch of reports out of the New York media that if Herbert had declared after his junior season, instead of Daniel Jones being our quarterback, it would have been Herbert. So that would have been a pretty interesting landing spot for him with all the weapons the Giants have. Not that the Chargers don't also have weapons. I just feel like the Giants have at least slightly better offensive weapons at this time.
Yeah, the Giants would have been a good team if that had happened.
Yeah.
Dare to dream, Bobby. Dare to dream.
Are you're looking to join Dwight and I out back? I'm going to take both of you on because, I mean, just look at me. I can do it.
It's okay. You'll fumble your chance. It's all right.
Oh. Yeah, clearly.
I will
All right.
will say, Bobby, you are bigger in real life than I thought you were going to be. So you got that going for you.
I don't know if that's a compliment. Also, I've dropped
That's what
I
she
don't
said.
mean weight wise. I mean height wise. I think if I remember right, you were basically as tall as I am. Are you 6 foot? Are you over 6 foot?
no, but I'm like 5'11"ish.
Okay. I remember you were. I was like, this Bobby's going to be little. He's going to be like a 5'8" guy. But he was just surprised me, man.
All right, I'll accept that. I will say to the other emphasis of big that I have dropped like 16 pounds recently. So,
Good
I'm not
for you.
quite as big as I used to be. However, on to my quarterback, which I'm actually going to go against myself here. I kept going back and forth when I made these ranks before our show, and I had Darnold, Minshew, and flipping them around. And I am going to upset probably every single person out there, particularly Tyler Gunther, who's a huge Sam Darnold fan. And I'm going to say, even though I'm going to select both of these players here because I'm absolutely not selecting either after Jordan Love, that I'm going to select Gardner Minshew first. And the reason why is maybe not from a job security perspective, maybe not even from a real life winning games perspective, but from a goddamn fantasy perspective. Gardner Minshew had a better season in his one season that he got to be a starter than Darnold has had in his entire career. And Darnold, yes, he's had injuries and he's had other reasons and he has Adam Gase and whatever. But from a fantasy perspective, he has not really lived up to any of his hype yet. And Gardner Minshew, you can say what you want about him, but he has. And I know people who say Gardner Minshew will not have a starting job next season. And to those people, I say, you know what sells tickets? Being fun. You know who you'd have a fun story to tell about if you hung out with them for a night? Gardner Minshew. My case is closed.
Well, I mean, the most fun, the most popular guy on a football team is the backup quarterback. So it would make sense that as popular as he is, he resumes that natural role next season once they draft Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, right?
Listen, Matt, this is not Blue Mountain State. The ideal spot is not the backup QB. Gardner Minshew, I'm calling my shot now, will be the starter of. I actually have a bet about this anyway, but he will be the starter of the Jaguars in 2021. They will surprise people in 2020 if there is a season, and they will not finish high enough to finish low enough. It's always confusing with high picks and low whatever, but they will not finish low enough to have a high draft pick to be able to select one of the top two quarterbacks, and he will keep his job, and things will be great. And Jacksonville will all just be wearing mustaches to celebrate. They're going like 8-8.
Just to comment on Darnold real quick, we have to remember how young he is too. He's actually younger than Gardner Minshew, despite having 2 seasons in the league already. He just turned 23 a couple of months ago, came in the league at 21. So, hopefully this is the final year of Gase and we can move on with his development after that. I think this is just real quick. I do think if you are interested in Darnold, now is the time to buy because maybe he gets worse. Maybe he gets worse this season, but I think the likelihood that he gets better this season is higher than that he's going to get worse. So his value is probably at an all-time low right now. So if you want to buy, and I think now is the time to do it.
The fact that I would even consider Gardner Minshew over Darnold shows you that it's the time to buy, because I realize that that's even a ridiculous take. But I'm doing it anyway. And so, but for my next one, I will select Sam Darnold. I do think to fight myself there, that idiot who just took Gardner Minshew over Sam Darnold and left Sam Darnold to me. What a guy. What a great guy. To fight myself on that. So as I said, Sam Darnold did have some injury history and he gets made fun of it for that. But, those were serious issues where he could have died if he got hit on his spleen. He's had Adam Gase to deal with. The Jets haven't really surrounded him with weapons. And he probably is going to outlive Gase's Jets career. So hopefully they bring in someone who can actually help him and teach him how to play the game. I kind of like what the Jets are doing this offseason, and they do get back some offensive weapons, and they brought in Denzel Mims, and Chris Herndon is going to be healthy, supposedly, and not suspended. Jamison Crowder is kind of like Jarvis Landry light. So I'm not totally out on Darnold. I just love Minshew and kind of did that for like the shock/joke value. but also did it because I do sincerely believe that Minshew will actually have a better fantasy season than Darnold will again this season. But I realize we're talking dynasty, so if you're talking long term, you could totally convince me that Darnold is the safer and better asset. But I will roll with risk when we're talking about the guy that we're talking about as the 15th and 16th guys in our draft.
Yeah.
So for both these guys, they're developmental quarterbacks in my mind, or like QB3 bye-week fill-ins. So I'll take the guy who actually has had some fantasy success, even though I recognize it could bite me.
Yeah, I actually like Minshew quite a bit. He's the way he played last year was a little bit of a departure from how he was at Washington State. I like how he's pretty careful with the ball. He led 3 comeback game-winning drives. He's definitely got he has the skill set of kind of like a game manager. He's kind of careful with the ball. He doesn't make a lot of huge throws, but at the same time, he's got that swagger of that of that lead quarterback that you want that can win a game when he needs to. So I'm not willing to move him up a whole lot higher until I see it for one more year. They don't have the greatest wide receivers there. I like Chart quite a bit, but past that, it's a pretty hodgepodge group of receivers. So I want to see him do it again. But if you're not rooting for the guy, you're not doing something right, because he's just hella fun to root for and hella fun to draft. And he's just a fun guy. I hope he sticks around, and makes something of himself. So that's all I got, man.
I'm also biased because since some people pointed out that I looked like for him, for the few people on the internet that don't know at this point, I grew a mustache for No Shave November and raised some money pretending to be Gardner Minshew and posting videos for that. So I hope that he continues to have success so I can continue to raise money for charity that way. But Dwight, instead of talking about Jordan Love, I think what we'll do now is just transition into talking about some of the coming quarterbacks from the college world, since that's really your specialty, and we'll let you talk about that.
You didn't even rank Dwayne Haskins.
That's true.
Buddy? Or Mitchell Trubisky. I mean,
all right.
You didn't even give Dwight a chance to draft Trubisky. I'm just saying.
No, I wasn't going to. I was actually. What's strange is I was actually thinking about going Jared Stidham next. So,
you could.
I really like him, but yeah, not a fan of Haskins. Not a fan of Love. Yeah, not a fan of Trubisky. So,
I don't mind Haskins, but I will say that I did make this show sheet while I was multitasking, eating lunch really quickly between meetings for work, but it is on me. I just totally missed it. So
I just wanted to mention Haskins because I wanted to talk about how awesome it would be if Alex Smith is the starting quarterback again in the league.
That would be very cool. I don't think it'll happen, but I would be very into that storyline.
Yeah, that'd be a really cool story. So 2021, right? Yeah, we got a big 3 quarterbacks coming out next year. Pretty much, it's always the race for Trevor Lawrence, but it's also the race for Justin Fields and Trey Lance as well. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence has been on the radar. He's been that Andrew Luck type prospect, best quarterback since probably Andrew Luck, prospect-wise. Love the size at 6'6". He's accurate. He's mobile. He's led, a really great team to a championship. And he does a lot of the things that you don't – the way he throws, you make any throw on the field, and he makes it look so easy. He took a little bit of a step back at the beginning of last year. He threw 8 interceptions in the first 7 games, I think it was. And then after that, nothing. You just see the kid's got the killer instinct, the leadership. I mean, he's everything. But then you go down to number 2. And I'm sure you guys have heard Trevor Lawrence. You guys have been in pigs leagues and stuff, so you guys know the hype that's been surrounding him. I mean, and you guys don't have much, you don't have much Devy knowledge, but I mean, everybody knows Trevor Lawrence at this point. So, and Justin Fields is right there too, though. He's, from Ohio State, very accurate mobile passer. He has a little bit of trouble, with when the plays break down, knowing when to throw the ball away. He takes a few too many sacks, but he's not. Sorry about that. He's not. He has really good arm strength, not elite arm strength, but he just does a lot of the little things. He's running that offense at Ohio State that's very similar to a pro offense, does a lot of the things, a lot of the plays, makes a lot of decision making, reads through his progressions. He does a lot of things that you like, for leading an offense. And Some people even have him over Trevor Lawrence just because of the mobility, and there's some things to like about each of those guys. I think both of them are going to be in the league for a long time. Then you got this, kid coming out of North Dakota State, just like Carson Wentz did. Trey Lance last year, gosh, I don't have his statistics pulled up. He had, I think, 28 touchdowns and no interceptions last year, if I remember right. Just crazy good accurate. He is truly mobile. He can take off and run, but that's not his first choice. He waits until it absolutely has to. Just the level of competition will always be a question when you're coming from North Dakota State. And it looks like they are trying to play some games this year. I think the Division II was shut down, but they are trying to, I just read today that they're trying to schedule a game with Nebraska, actually, which would be pretty cool to see him on a field like that against a team of Nebraska's caliber. But he's just another guy. He's just a lot of fun to watch. Just always mobile, flies all over the place, makes these just crazy throws, great touch. So he's one that's kind of came out of nowhere. Some people even have him up over Fields, which I think is a little crazy, but you got that North Dakota love there. So those are the big three. I don't know if you guys got anything on any of those guys, or you guys have them on any of your rosters, or.
I have a question about Trey Lance, because I hadn't heard of him, and I'm sure people were talking about him in season, but it seemed like once we hit bowl season and more towards the off season, all of a sudden people were propping him up in the same conversation with Lawrence and Justin Fields. So, like, am I wrong about that? Were people talking about him in season and previous to this off season as well, and I just missed it, or did he just kind of come out of nowhere?
He definitely came out of nowhere. He is I'm in a crazy deep Devy league. We have like 150 Devy players on our rosters, and he wasn't even drafted. So like this year I was able to get him in like even the third round. So like he definitely has gained a lot of traction in the last like 7 months, probably 8 months. It just all of a sudden people are like, some people had heard of him. I think Kane, he's from Kane Fossil's hometown of Marshall, Minnesota. So Kane's been kind of pumping him up for a little while there. So, but you put up those types of stats, the no interceptions, people are like, what? Looking like, seriously? At any level, any school, that's amazing to throw as many times as he did, not have any interceptions. So he throws just a beautiful ball. And it's just, it's a lot of fun to watch. He's going to be right up there. It's not out of the realm if teams fall right, that these three all could go in the top 5. So like if obviously quarterback need is going to be like the Giants are in the top 5, they would, stuff like that. So gotta get it to you, Bobby. So, I mean, if a team needs a quarterback, obviously they could all go in the top 5, but top 10 is definitely probably a lock at this point. All three of these guys. So.
Is he is he kind of boom bust, or is he just super safe with the football? Because I'm just looking at his game logs now, and he has like 5 or 6 games with zero touchdowns thrown. So I'm just kind of wondering what happened there.
Right. They do run a different type of offense there at North Dakota State. There was games where I was watching, I think I've watched 4 full games of his, and they would run the ball way too much, and they would get up really early, and then he would just kind of sit back and do nothing. They're a pretty powerful team at Division II, and they would just start rolling on people, and he would just kind of, throw the ball here and there, but that was it, so I want to attribute it to that. He's obviously not a lock, and I don't think he's boom or bust, really. I think he's a pretty safe prospect, but obviously there's, the level of competition. I think with Carson Wentz just doing it really piques everybody's interest even more. I think if Carson wasn't before him, maybe he would be thought of a little less than he is, but I think we just saw it, and we know this program can turn this type of quarterback out and recruit this type of quarterback. It definitely puts a precedence there and makes it probably give it a little more steam than what it would have if there was no Carson Wentz. Maybe he would not be first round, but he would definitely have raised some eyebrows. So
cool. Thanks, Dwight, for that education.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it's a skill in life to admit when you don't know something at all. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. Before you even mentioned Trey Lance, I had no idea who he was. So I just learned about him live on this podcast, and now I'm better for it. I would say it does add to that come out of nowhere thing, because while I am by no means a Devy expert, and I just outed myself as not being a Devy expert whatsoever, I'm at least aware generally of like who people are talking about as the top guys. So it does add some, I think, to what Matt was saying about him possibly coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, I play Devi, but I don't play Devi. I play in Devi leagues, but generally I trade away all of my Devi assets like right away and trade them for rookie picks or players or whatever. So so I appreciate having a Devi guy on the pod.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same exact way as Matt. With that, though, we are going to transition to our animal of the week, and really appreciate you doing that, Dwight. But now what I'd like you to do is tell us, because we always do this with our guests. First, we have them tell us why that is their favorite non-domestic animal, and then we share some fun facts. And again, another opportunity for me to learn each week because I don't know nearly as much about animals as Matt does.
Yeah, I've always loved meerkats, and like when the show came on, the last, what was it, like 5-6 years it came on? Was it Meerkat Nation? I think is what it's called.
Meerkat Manor, man.
Manor,
Meerkat
Manor.
All right, great. That's a great show.
It was just, they're so much fun to watch. Like the hierarchy of their like, I don't know if it's called a colony. I don't know, but you know, the way they interact together, how they just the whole group mentality. They're just so much fun to watch. They look like they're these like cute, lovable animals that are probably doing far more complex things than we ever think they are because they're just cute and little, you know, like my daughter sees them and she's like, oh my God, Dad, I want 20 of them. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to build something in the back room and we're going to do it, you know? So I've just always been fascinated by them. I love watching them. They're one of the few animals that I could just sit there and watch all freaking day. Like they're just so interesting. So, but Matt, tell me some of the more interesting things about them. Like, mute.
I was trying to save you guys from all of slamming around. No, you could call them a colony because they live in a family group, right? But the actual name for a group of meerkats is a mob, which I think is pretty fun. Mob or a gang, a mob of meerkats. But no, I think the coolest thing about meerkats is that they have a sentry. They have a lookout that like goes up on the top of usually they'll like inhabit like old termite mounds and stuff like that. They'll go up, so they'll have a sentry that goes up and watches for hawks and everything. So they have somebody that goes up and defends them. They're actually also a matriarchal society. So generally there's a female that kind of lead the troop, one breeding female that kind of runs everything. But yeah, they're super cool. In terms of their conservation status, though, they are not of any concern. So we're not going to talk about a charity organizations for them, but they are in Southern Africa. And when you protect habitats, you protect all animals, which includes meerkats. So if you guys are interested in donating to a charity that will help out meerkats, you know, vis-a-vis saving the environment, a great one is the African Wildlife Foundation. That's awf.org.
And real quick about meerkats, I will add the only thing that I actually know about meerkats, which is that Timon from The Lion King is a meerkat. And that was my only introduction to meerkats as a kid. That's pretty much all I really have to add on the subject, but they definitely are very cool. I have enjoyed looking at them when I've gone to zoos. And yeah, I don't know. Are there animated meerkats? Is King Julian, I know this is a weird question, but King Julian from Madagascar, is he a meerkat or is he something else?
I think he's a lemur, but I don't remember. I can't. Is he? Yeah, he's at the move it guy. A guy to move it. He's a lemur.
Are lemurs and meerkats related, Matt? Or am I just
lemurs are prosimians, or in the primate family, and meerkats are kind of like mongoose. So very pretty different. But sidebar, since you mentioned Timon, how did you guys feel about the quote live action version of Lion King?
I haven't watched it. I refuse.
Oh, okay. Dwight,
it wasn't bad. Yeah.
It was all right. But my biggest issue with it was, of course, animal nerd stuff. Like when they showed baby Pumbaa, they didn't show a baby warthog. They showed a baby Red River hog. And then when they were all eating grubs and stuff, you know, they're teaching Simba to not be a carnivore or whatever. They have freaking gazelles eating grubs. Like there was like a dick, I think, eating grubs and stuff, like, which doesn't happen. So come on, Disney, you spent millions and millions of dollars on this movie. You can't even get like the animal facts right. Get your stuff together.
Lion King was my favorite movie when I was a little kid. They'd put it on so that my parents would put it on basically whenever they just wanted me to shut up and like go watch it. So I just refused to watch the live action because I think that it would ruin things for me.
That's how my kids love it, and it's hard for me to watch. I still prefer the animated. Same with Beauty and the Beast. I refuse to watch the live action one. My kids love it, and I just will not watch it. I just can't stand it. I want to watch the animated one. So that's just a generational thing, you know. Our kids will probably show their kids, you know, the live action one and think,
and then their kids will have like an animated one based on the live action one that was based on the original animation.
They'll have a holographic one that shows up in their bedroom and reenacts the whole movie for them. Yeah,
they also took the best songs out of the live action version. Squash Banana, that was not in there. Hot to Sonic, Squash Banana with the Rafiki song, and then the Scar song. I always forget the name of it, but the line is "Listen to Teacher." Like they took that song out with the hyenas. That was a great song. So I don't know. I don't know why they had to mess up that movie.
This is now a Disney podcast.
Russ, this is just for Russ as personal. He can edit it out if he likes.
Yeah. Other than those little things, though, I was impressed with how they followed the sequence of the shots almost perfectly. Like it was laid out almost the exact same way. Like it was pretty impressive how they did it. But yeah, I'd prefer the cartoon one any day. So.
Yeah. We are going to move on to our extinctions of the week, and maybe an extinction of the week can be Disney stop taking animated movies and turning them into live action just to milk them for all they're worth. But as everybody knows at this point, extinction of the week is something that you wish would go extinct rather than endangered animals. During the pandemic, which has now been going on seemingly forever, we've also been doing positivity of the week because there's enough bad things happening that we should also highlight some good stuff. Matt, would you like to kick it off this week?
Yeah, I could go first. I guess this is a multi-pronged extinction. I want, first of all, Smash Mouth is a terrible band, so you shouldn't listen to them anyway. But if you need another reason to not listen to Smash Mouth, then he was at Sturgis, which is the giant motorcycle rally that happens in South Dakota every year. And he basically said that COVID doesn't exist. So Smash Mouth and Steve Harwell, the lead singer of Smash Mouth, you can go extinct. And then all of the people that thought it was a good idea to, South Dakota is one of the states that has the least amount of infection of the COVID virus in it. And you just brought 250,000 people from all over the place that aren't wearing masks to your state. So hopefully you guys survive that. So I guess Bikers, Sturgis, and Steve Harwell, lead singer of Smash Mouth, you guys can all go extinct. I'm fine with it. I'm
ashamed to admit that when I was little, I entered a talent show and my sister made me learn all the lyrics to All Star by Smash Mouth. And to this day, I still know all the lyrics. And it's pretty much the only song that I know all the lyrics to.
I believe that's the close to the show is you singing All Star right now.
Nice.
After we get the extinctions of the week.
Nobody wants that. Dwight, do you have an extinction of the week? If not, I can buy you some.
I did not prepare one. I have no idea. I'm not.
Okay.
I can't think of anything off the cuff that I want to go extinct.
I have a lot to unload.
There's nothing that grinds your gears, Dwight. Come on, there's got to be something that grinds your gears.
Always. Yeah.
I'll buy you some time. I have a lot to get off my chest, being a relatively new homeowner. So I bought a house recently, which we discussed on a recent episode of this podcast, and I've moved in. And since then, what I've realized is that the previous owners did absolutely nothing to update the house, take care of the house, or anything like that, which is fine. That's your prerogative. What really, really got me, though, is when we were closing on the house, there was an issue with the sprinkler, and then we had to go back and forth on it. And I never thought I'd be arguing about sprinklers, but that's a bit of an aside. However, we got in touch with their gardener, who is now our gardener. Sorry, Matt, I know how you feel about this. But the gardener told us that they flat out told him to stop taking care of their yard after they decided they were selling. So basically just let every single thing in our yard die. And it's going to be very expensive to fix it. And generally, we talked to our lawyer about it, and basically he's like, yeah, we don't generally put that in a contract because it's pretty much just considered common courtesy to take care of your lawn until the next buyer takes it over. So I realize there are much bigger concerns going on in the world, but I've also ranted about those on previous podcasts. So I'm going to get very, very specific here. If you are the sort of person to let your yard die to save yourself some money because some other owner is coming into your house, you are a terrible person and you should go extinct.
Nice.
I'll tack on to that. How about we just have yards in general go extinct? I mean, Bobby, I know I've given you some crap about this, but yards are such a waste of water. There's so much upkeep. Let's start xeriscaping. Throw some gravel out there. Throw some cactus, whatever. Your local. Well, that's in Southern California, but wherever you live, plant local plants, things like that. Stuff that are drought tolerant. There are plants like that in every single growing zone in the country. So if it dies, it dies. I don't know. That's probably a hot take, and probably not many people agree with me on that. But
Dwight, did I buy you enough time?
I guess, man. The only thing I can think of is this actually got me earlier today was, I've always been all along, you can have your own thought process. Unfortunately, Michigan, they've made us wear, everybody has to wear masks, which I've always been of the thought, you should. But recently I've noticed that some stores I go into are all like, you don't have to wear it in here. And I'm like, no, that's not a state. Our state says we must, and like, I don't know. This is just something that's been grinding me lately. And I stopped going to those stores. They're usually little tiny stores out in the middle of nowhere, about middle of nowhere kind of. And I don't know if they're thinking they're sticking to the man or whatever, but those people that run those types of stores can go extinct as far as I'm concerned. But the real good, homes, what do you call it, store owners and business owners, that want to, be respectful of everybody, let them succeed. And there's these people that make it known that you don't have to really bother me. So they can go bye-bye. I don't care. Let them get it. Whatever. It's a little vicious. Sorry. You might have even covered something like that. So
Dwight, just
search me.
Quick, I can edit this out. You got kind of like staticky and chipmunky for that. So you might need to repeat it.
That's fine. I don't care. I'm not going to repeat it. So I'm very, very uncomfortable. I'm very uncomfortable doing this type of stuff, man. I do not like talking bad about stuff. One of those,
you look uncomfortable.
I try not to.
We'll let you off.
I will sum up what I believe I gathered from the bits and pieces of the chipmunk staticky Dwight, which was
basically, if you're a homeowner that says we don't, if you're a store owner that says we don't have to wear masks, you can go extinct because we're supposed to be respectful of other people.
Yep, seriously, it's not about you; it's about everybody else. Stop being a dick. Just wear your freaking mask. Listen. I walked all up and down a hillside today. I moved 3 dump truck molds of mulch and stuff like that at work today, wearing a mask the entire time. Don't tell me you can't breathe with a mask if you're just walking down the street. Doctors wear a mask all damn day, taking care of the sick people that you are making sick by not wearing a mask. Just wear it. And if you don't, then I guess you can go extinct too.
Yep. Let's move into a topic that I think will make Dwight more comfortable since he doesn't like talking bad about anybody, and that's positivity for me.
It's a good quality, to be honest with you. I wish I had more of it.
Me too. I can very easily talk negatively. Not usually about specific people. It's more like groups of people. Even though mine was specific, no one knows who that person is, so I can feel okay about that. But in terms of the positivity of the week, I guess I'll start. So as I already mentioned, I've dropped about 16 pounds. I'm continuing to lose weight and go towards my goal. We mentioned on the podcast for the last one we recorded that I'd only been drinking water and not eating dessert and basically checking my intake, and I've still been doing that. I've also been at my new job for over a month now, and it's hard to believe it's been a month, but I don't even know what time is anymore because of the coronavirus. So it has both felt like a very quick month and at the same time has felt like I've already been at my job for 10 years. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much to share, but am happy to have made it a full month without being fired and being healthy.
I definitely have a more of an appreciation for, I still think people suck as a whole for the most part, but you see a little more appreciation sometimes when you deal with people, which is something kind of nice. We're all going through this together. Sometimes I talk on the phone all day at work. That's what I do. It's customer service. And I hear a lot of people, that are just, we're frustrated. We're all going through this together. And it kind of has brought a lot of us together that would probably not have been together. So I wish there was a lot more of it, but I do see more of it now than I ever have in quite some time. So I'm really appreciative of some of the relationships, that just people to people, strangers, it's different. When a couple of times I've been able to DJ weddings and stuff, it's been kind of cool. Everybody's always like, wow, like everybody's so happy to be out and talk to other people, and they're nicer for at least a few minutes, so I am appreciative of that. It's kind of cool. Kind of a weird side effect of all this. So, yeah.
Matt, do you have positivity? Unlike Dwight, I feel like this is what you usually struggle with.
Not this week, man. I don't remember if I mentioned it the last time a show. Like Dwight said, time is a flat circle. Who knows what happened in the last several months? It feels like this year has been 5 years. But no, Megan, my girlfriend, has finally completely moved into the house. I'm very excited about that. Got my bad roommate out, got her in, and she makes me feel like maybe I've never been in love before, and now I am. So it's all good, man. I'm excited for what this chapter brings. We actually just got we're gonna go up and see her family this coming weekend. We actually just got COVID tested for like precautionary reasons because her dad is diabetic, just to make sure that we're safe as we go up there. And I didn't get the brain scrambler one. I didn't even know like new tests exist that aren't the one that like go up and everybody says like goes up and tickles your brain. I think I've had my finger farther up my nose than the Q-tip that they put up there. So that's great. And I'll hopefully get that result in a few days and it'll be good. So all positivity on my side right now, man.
Only Matt could say something that potentially brings like a tear to your eye and then follows it up with shoving stuff up his nose.
I like it.
Yeah. So with that, we are going to end the show, but I just want to say once again, Dwight, we really appreciate you joining. And this time I'll let the people know where they can find you. But I am obligated, just because of talking to Gabe before we recorded, to say the Peebles champ will now tell you where you can find him.
Yes. FF Peebles champ on Twitter, courtesy of Gabe and the Open Bar. So they gave me that moniker, and it's kind of stuck, and I kind of like it. It's kind of fun.
It's a great one.
Work at DLF podcast is Devi Owner's Manual, which we have not done a lot of. We're kind of in shock in the Devi community. All this football is being canceled, so it's kind of hard to get excited for football when half the teams aren't going to be playing. So it's been kind of weird. I've heard talk of NFL on Saturdays and stuff. That would definitely help. So. I might actually have to go to Pumpkin Patches and drink pumpkin spice latte and crap like that. Like everybody else does on Saturdays. So, that's it.
Well, make sure that you all follow Dwight and check out the Devi Manual. Hopefully, Dwight won't be spending too much time at Pumpkin Patches because there'll be NFL to replace it. But it's not the worst thing in the world. Pumpkin Patches can be fun, as basic as they are. You can find myself and Matt at Dynasty League Football. You can find Matt at Matt Price FF on Twitter, as well as the various podcasts that he does. I always joke that there's too many to list. It's not really that there's too many. It's just that I don't feel
three. There's only three.
So there's Dynasty League Football. I think it's just at DLF Pod. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. There's Dynasty Game Night, which is DGN Pod, unless it's something else on Twitter. And we, of course, are Zooperflex. And if you're listening to the show, as I've said before, I don't know why you need me to tell you that, but you can find us at Zooperflex on Twitter. Until next time.
We are Zooperflex. I don't know why, but when you said that, it just like there's got to be there's some like 90s sci-fi movie where there was like some, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of Terminator, but it seems like there was some kind of movie where it was like, is it the Borg? We are Borg. Maybe it's that from Star Trek. We are the Borg. Anyway, never mind. You can edit all that out, Russ. Somebody's going to say something. They're going to be like, oh yeah, there's that movie where they're like, their chant is, we are whatever the thing is.
Marshall.
Well, we are Marshall. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. That's not sci-fi at all. I like it.
Well, until next time, normally I say keep it classy, Fantasy Twitter, but until this time I will say, until next time, somebody once told me the world is going to roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of dumb with her finger in the thumb. in the shape of an L on her forehead. Well, years start coming, they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules, and I hit the ground running. Until next time.
I love it, man. That's fantastic.